We're ready to start. We all set? I think we may want to drop the music. I don't know who controls the music, if it's in here or out there. Do we control it? In here. Okay. Thanks. Such a jazzy college. So let me start with a practice that we've started both in the College of Education and in the university, which is the land acknowledgement. So if we can just pause for a second and begin by acknowledging that the University of Washington, like all of our lives, institutions exist on indigenous land. We gather on shared homelands of Duwamish, Suquamish peoples, and peoples from the Muckleshoot and Tulalip tribes and other Coast Salish peoples, and we're grateful to be here. Such land acknowledgements should be rooted in ongoing relationships about doing work with people and doing work on this land and doing good on this land. And such an acknowledgement has become a practice for us, in part because it reminds us of where we're from. It reminds us of who we are. It reminds us of our need for a sense of solidarity and partnership, and that we're constantly learning. And so let us start with that acknowledgement. And the College of Education takes this responsibility quite seriously because we're committed to building partnerships and keeping track of our history. The sense of responsibility in our local communities in particular matters a great deal, and I'm standing in front of Mia Tuan, the Dean of the College of Education. So Mia, if you would just stand up so we can acknowledge you. Oh, yeah, I had to do that. Yeah, I just had to. Well, because you're all tied to the College of Education, but I also must say that Mia and I were in this community quite some time ago, more than a year ago, really trying to encourage both the College of Education but the university to have partnerships here, to locate ourselves here. And before it was actually started, Mia and I were working together to try to say, let's have the university on the light rail in the community. So the university's commitment to advancing partnerships and the college's commitment to advancing partnerships is at the heart of who the college is. And I should say that I'm Ed Taylor. I'm the Vice Provost of Undergraduate Academic Affairs, but I'm most proud of my faculty appointment, which is in the College of Education, Leadership and Policy Studies. So my identity and my presence here is in large measure because I'm a faculty member in this college that you represent. The UW Othello Commons, the place that we're sitting now, there are a set of core principles that guide our work here. Let me read what those principles are, because we designed them together with multiple schools and colleges. We laid out first and foremost that our work is anchored in some principles. One of those is involve and engage community partners, prioritizing community-informed work that aligns with the mission of the University of Washington. Foster and engage in just and equitable relationships between the community and the University of Washington. Be transparent and accountable in the spirit of mutuality and solidarity with our community. So that notion of mutuality and solidarity is important to us. And this Ideathon has been an extensive 3-day experience. So our students, our undergraduate students, have been working on this project for 3 days, some of it on campus, some with our community partners, then you spent the entire day here, to collaborate and innovate toward addressing some real-world problems. Students have used design principles that balances creative and analytical thinking and shifts between generating ideas and testing ideas to arrive at a final solution that we'll hear about today. So this year's challenge is anchored in this question. We believe that within 5 years, Othello will be a model for innovative and equitable educational practices. How can the Othello UW Commons be a catalyst for making the vision a reality? In the spirit of collaboration, student teams were paired with community-based organizations in the 98118 zip code to address educational needs of the Othello community. This year's partners include Somali Family Safety and the Task Force, Tiny Tots, and Mercy Housing. Can we give a hand to the community partners? We're really grateful for your partnership. We're also grateful for our panel of esteemed judges who will assess the pitches and award the winning team. The winning team will receive gift cards to the university bookstore worth $200 each, College of Education water bottles, and their idea will be seeded with $4,000 for implementation. Our judges have an exciting task ahead of them. Let's meet our judges. So if the judges would please stand up. James Hong is a UW graduate student, UW graduate who studied psychology, sociology, and education. James, go ahead and stay standing. Sociology, psychology, and his professional career includes both local and international education, youth development, and nonprofit leadership. And this is your community, James, so thank you. John Du Chase Chen. John Du Chen is a senior lecturer in the College of Education, also a co-director of the National Seed Project, a peer-led professional development program driving change toward gender equity and diversity. Sarah Bruhire. Sarah leads strategy, operations, and finance for the foundation's work for the Gates Foundation's work in Washington, as well as for National Early Learning Team. She's worked as a teacher in a teacher advocacy, professional development, and research, and began her career as a middle school teacher in Chicago. Sunny Sa. Sunny is a recent graduate, where's Sunny, at Whitman College, where she studied policy and history. Graduated Whitman, studied politics and history, focused on immigration and refugee studies, globalization, memory studies. She now works here at the Othello Commons Project and is an administrative assistant where she runs the day-to-day operations of the space. You can find Sunny here every day. She considers Othello and the rest of Southeast Seattle home. She's decided to bring together her career interest in working in higher education and the communities to whom she is dedicated with the Othello Commons Project. And TJ McGill, friend and colleague, who's a co-founder and managing partner of Evergreen Pacific Partners, Seattle, Washington private-based equity firm. TJ serves as the director of the University of Washington Foundation, for the University of Washington Foundation. He holds a Bachelor's of Arts degree in economics from the University of Washington and master's, an MBA from the Anderson School of Business at UCLA. So these are our panel. This is our panel. Thank you all. Another applause. So let me, and I guess from here, I'll welcome up our teams and we'll get to see your presentations. And I know some of you are nervous, some of you have practiced. And this is a moment for us to be in our community, to be in communities of faith, and to have fun together. So let me welcome the first team to the stage. Are we ready?
We have to pass around the mic.
Hi, good evening. My name is Wingo.
My name is Stacy. Sandra.
Tonight, I would like to share with you my personal story. As I'm a single mother, a head of household who raised 2 daughters from young age in Hong Kong. I used to work full-time. So during the morning, I would wake up my 2 daughters and drop them off to the school and before going to my office. But I couldn't focus on my job because I was so concerned that I worry about my 2 daughters. If they are eating well, if they are behaving good in the school, if they are making any troubles. So, but thanks God, I have a good domestic helper who helped pick up my 2 daughters after school. And I really responded to what Hannah Hicks, the founder of Tiny Tots Development Center, and she has a very good mission statement that she believes in loving and care for the families. And if I had a time machine to go back 20 years ago, I would like to put my 2 daughters to Tiny Tots Development Center because I believe they can give a very loving and caring environment and safe place for my 2 daughters to grow up with. I'd like to hand over to Stacy, who will talk about the opportunities and challenges that Tiny Tots is facing to resolve the equity and the issues in the community.
Thank you, Ingo. Hi, everyone. So we're going to talk a little bit about Tiny Tots and the challenges that we came up with. So the mission that Tiny Tots has had for the past 50 years is to focus intentionally on the well-being of the children and the families that they serve. So they recognize that in order to best serve their children, they need to advance the community that they're sending them into, yeah? So here are some 3 challenges that they brought to us. So the first one is there's a lack of access to fresh and organic produce in the Othello area. So 5 years ago, Tiny Tots partnered with a farm-to-table organization where they provided this fresh and organic produce to serve their children in their kitchen. And teachers and staff were amazed. They saw that after this change, their children had changes in their behaviors, especially children that had challenging behaviors, such as ADHD. And this is when Tiny Tots made the conscious decision to make the shift in how they were going to serve and feed their children. Our second challenge is that Tiny Tots children, they're the future of this community. The dropout rate for high school graduation in the Othello and South Seattle community is 150% the dropout rate of the greater Seattle area. These children arrive to high school with histories and stories of immigration in their families, of systemic oppressions, and this limits them from envisioning higher ed as a part of their story in the future. And we'd like to abolish this narrative to bridge this gap in higher ed. So the last challenge that we saw was that Tiny Tots can be a catalyst for community building and engagement. So we recognize that gun violence is not an uncommon story in South Seattle. The lead cook at Tiny Tots told us a very touching story. She told us that her 2 grandchildren, Dane Tyson Jr. and Sharon Thomas, they had aspirations to go to culinary school after they graduated. They had a love for food and they wanted to serve their community in that way. Unfortunately, within the same month, both of these grandchildren were lost to gun violence. So our goal is to create a safe place to bring to the table.
With these challenges in mind, we wanted to create an idea that would create space in the community for growth and for different stakeholders to take a place at the table to talk about creating growth in the community. So we came up with Miss Helen's Table. Miss Helen's Table is a restaurant that will use the available space in the Othello Square that opens in 2020. With the availability of a commercial kitchen and a new room availability, Tiny Tots will be able to use this space to create a kitchen and a new restaurant that will create mentorship programs for high school students, as well as address the food insecurity that we heard about in the community. Miss Helen's Table will become an anchor for the Othello community. The restaurant will provide the opportunity for students to gain experience in the culinary arts by partnering with students from Seattle Central Culinary Institute. The restaurant will be located right beside Tiny Tots Development Center location. It will provide an opportunity for the Othello community to gather at the same table and provide affordable, organic, culturally informed meals for the community to enjoy. This innovation will impact Tiny Tots by providing additional revenue to increase employee salary, create opportunities for mentorship, and address food insecurity.
All right, so here are the stakeholders that we have that we're bringing to the table, Miss Helen's Table. So this restaurant will provide a vision for the long-term impacts of the Othello community and its students. So money won't be a necessary aspect to make this story happen. The infrastructure is there for this space. We will be using this money to develop programs such as these mentoring programs for these high school students to connect with the Seattle Central Culinary Program. And this will be their path to post-secondary ed. So talent is everywhere, but unfortunately opportunity is not. Miss Helen's Table will be a safe, equitable, and innovative space that brings the Othello community together for the benefit of the children and families. So everyone has a seat at our table. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all, good work. So let's bring up group 2.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sudi.
I'm Susie.
I'm Rebecca.
I'm CE. Our team works with Mercy Housing. The mission of Mercy Housing is to provide a stable, healthy, and vibrant community by developing and operating housing for people who are from low-income families, seniors, and people with special needs. However, they also emphasize that home is just the beginning. They have lots of other services such as after-school programs for children and lots of workshops and access to clinics.
Right. So, some of the opportunity and access available at Mercy Housing would be connecting residents with many community partners while also providing different types of services. Some of the challenges and consideration at Mercy Housing would be the limited staffing to run these services. For instance, there is currently one staff working with the students at the after-school program available. So that means that if that person is not available, if that person is not available during that day, that service will not be provided. So another big factor challenge would be working with multi-generational groups of people with multiple different language backgrounds. So, since there is a language barrier, communication is more difficult for the residents and staff available. Which also, this is why we created Othello in Residence. All right.
Building off the strengths of the Mercy Housing mission, which is to empower residents through service-enriched housing, we envision a community-based program that moves beyond the walls of the individual home to include partnerships with organizations and individuals within the Othello community that would further enrich the lives of not only the Mercy Housing residents, but of the greater Othello community as well. So Othello in Residence uses an artist-in-residence model where we envision using the Othello UW Commons as a center for cultural celebration and learning. Each month, individuals and organizations will have the opportunity to bring expertise through enriching and practical learning experiences. Month-long themes will occur twice weekly at varying times to encourage participation. Themes could include partnering with Bike Works to focus on learning how to ride, safety and maintenance. Other partnerships could be with local artists, writers, craftsmen, tradesmen, gardeners. Child care would be provided through the UW of Education service learning hours and be located upstairs. And month-long residencies would culminate in a celebratory dinner and showcasing of the learning. So drawing on the depth of the diversity within the Othello community, we feel this unique innovation will create an opportunity for Mercy Housing to move beyond its walls in enriching the lives of all of the Othello community.
So this is a word cloud here about some of the things that we felt were impacts that would come from this, as well as stakeholders that might be involved. So we believe that Othello residents could empower the community to be able to celebrate their cultural differences by learning new skills, being connected to the community resources that exist, and growing together through their monthly celebration in this meal. We think that this is an opportunity for residents not just to be surviving, but to be able to be thriving and proud of the community and cultures that they represent. The stakeholders that exist are the Mercy Housing and its residents, the residents largely within the area, and UW, as well as the local businesses that exist in the area. We really wanted to open this up beyond Mercy Housing residents because we want those residents to be connected with other residents that already exist in the Othello area, and we wanted to open it up to the Othello community because we know that there are a lot of assets that already exist within the community that Mercy Housing just isn't tapped into yet, and so we want to highlight some of those different assets that already exist. We also thought that the cultural or the celebratory dinner at the end of the month is a safe place for community members to be able to come together and practice language development skills with other people who might be bilingual, and that this would provide an opportunity for them to be connected with other people who speak similar languages or have similar cultural practices as well. Overall, we are excited to be able to bridge the gap between the challenges that Mercy Housing is currently facing, especially with staffing, and to be able to bridge that gap with the assets that exist in the community through the Othello Residence Program. Thank you.
Thank you, groups 1 and groups 2. So now we're on to group 3. Is group 3 all set?
Hi everyone, welcome. We are challengers, team challengers, and my name is Jan Michelle.
My name is Caitlin. And I'm Jasmine.
And before we get started, I want to tell a story. I'm an immigrant from the Philippines, and I've been here for 8 years. When I came here in middle school and throughout my high school, I didn't actually have a teacher that's Asian. It wasn't until I went to UW that I had Dr. Chen as my first Asian representative for higher education. So I never thought that higher ed would be possible for me. Also because I am from a single parent family, I realized that we didn't have resources. My mom was working at Walmart at that time, and we didn't have a lot of assets with us. Therefore, it's really important for us when we worked at Tiny Tots. We realized that they really do believe in representation. It matters to them that their children and their early learning sites have teachers that looks like them. We know that there are Black community focused, however, they're very open to learning more and especially reaching out to the community here at Othello. Sorry. Hello? So one of the opportunities and assets that we also see is that Tiny Tots knew that this diversity community is what they need. Therefore, they are going to be reaching out to this community by 2020. They're going to be across the street. And one of the things that we really want to highlight and focus on is that they believe in higher education. And one of the assets is they're sharing a courtyard with high school students. And they do believe that with early childhood education and working with high school, that mentorship and mentee will decrease the high school dropouts here in Othello community. We also believe that by starting now and using this Othello UW Commons, that we can start with our UW interns, UW College of Ed students that are looking for internships. And also, I believe that my story might be a limited representation. Therefore, we want to share with you an innovation that is equitable in this community.
We had another slide here. That's not here. But basically, our innovation is UW student and faculty-led classes. So I'll just move on to this one. But our innovation is UW student and faculty-led classes. And in these classes, all stakeholders would benefit because Tiny Tots mentioned to us that a big challenge to them was just the lack of assistance and the lack of support. So we would have UW students and faculty come into the Othello Commons and the Tiny Tots location to support the staff. And in that, Tiny Tots would receive additional assistance, which they mentioned that they needed. And then the UW students would benefit because they would receive academic credit for their support. So we envision that is a way that UW students would want to come to the Othello community or would bring them in. And the Tiny Tots families would receive education through classes that are taught by these UW students and faculty members, where the parents would receive education on life skills such as budgeting, cooking, nutrition, and parenting advice. And then the adolescents from the Rainier Valley Leadership Academy, which is a high school that Jan mentioned, they would be receiving classes on topics such as post-secondary planning, mentor support, and we also envision them taking classes on child development and learning, in which they would be working with the Tiny Tots preschoolers, and then the preschoolers would be taking classes on STEM education, math, science, reading, where the UW students would come from all different backgrounds and be able to support the children in that sense. And these classes would be culturally responsive, and translation services would be available, and we recognize that a big asset of the community is that a majority of community members in Othello are multilingual. So that's great because they can provide translation services for these classes and for the parents. And we would envision that these classes would be free in the sense that for the Tiny Tots parents, the cost of the classes for them and their children would be included with their Tiny Tots tuition. And then the Rainier Valley Leadership Academy, we would offer free classes for free and reduced lunch eligible students, which is approximately 60%. And the most innovative part of our classes would be that there would be an e-portfolio that exists. And the e-portfolio would have resources like video recordings, links and resources to what they learned in the classes, contact information so that they can connect to other UW students, UW faculty, UW programs. And the best part of an e-portfolio is that there's no expiration date existing online. So the fact that this is an online program with so many resources to offer, all of this information would be a great incentive for parents to enroll their students in Tiny Tots because they have this plethora of resources to access anytime they need. And some additional benefits of an online e-portfolio with all this information is that it supports digital literacy developments for parents, adolescents, and children. We envision having some events posted that would be hosted at the Othello UW Commons, and we would incentivize coming to these events because we would have food, we would have raffle prizes, and we would have guest speakers. And also we know that there's internet access at the Othello UW Commons, so there's all of these great events and internet access and classes that we can use this Othello UW Commons space for, and it would really bring the community together, people of all ages, all generations, all cultures, and they would be learning together in this shared space, which is what is so amazing about the Othello UW Commons.
Okay, so now I want to go into the impact that we're hoping it'll make. Specifically, I want to point out that we dually are hoping that a lot of our stakeholders will also be a lot of the beneficiaries. And some of our stakeholders, we all personally feel are going to be the Othello community and the greater Othello community, because I don't feel like it's just this specific area, but we're hoping that it'll reach out further than that once they really start to see the opportunities and the development that can be had here, as well as UW, and then Tiny Tots, of course. And I think overall, of course, there's also going to be high school students that we're hoping to impact, the parents we're hoping to impact. That's all part of what we envision as the community. With the high schoolers specifically, we're hoping that their eyes will open to the post-secondary opportunities that they can have, whether they choose that be technical, community college, or colleges or universities, that's up to them, but it's opening their eyes to those opportunities and reducing those dropout rates just by exposing them to what's realistically around them, and as Jan had mentioned, actually seeing representation, and as Tiny Tots tries to do, representation of yourself and how you identify. And then as far as the children go, we're really hoping that we can help develop further that Social-emotional development, that's important in the first, from birth to 3 years, because that can be an indicator of where children will go in their education. And not only that, but it also prepares them for kindergarten, and I feel like those reinforcements throughout their community, not only from their parents, not only from Tiny Tots, but also seeing it in other individuals throughout their community, seeing it in older people that are significantly older, that could be grandparent age, seeing it in older people that could be parent age, seeing it in people that are siblings, seeing it in people that are just a few years older, that goes back into really pulling in that community and creating those bonds so that way people can really feel that those changes and the desire to want that change and want to be there and be engaged in it. And then the opportunity for jobs. And that could be either finding jobs when you see them or just even knowing skills that you've learned in this space that you can go forward and use to find jobs. So even those skill sets that we talked to Tiny Tots about, we're aware that they are partnered with Tilth and they give them food bags and providing a recipe card in there. But you know, that's one step that's been taken, but some of the parents don't know how to cook. Those are some skill sets that, you know, if we, even something as simple as that, as teaching small skill sets that might not be known to some of these communities because of the lack and the oppression and everything that's gone on, I think that it would really make that change because they could take this and then they could move forward, and it's really about giving back to the community every single chance you get because it's going to continuously happen is the real goal here. And we would hope to use the funds that we would receive to pay for those guest speakers that we spoke of here at the Othello UW Commons, as well as to pay for any kind of activities that we do with the children, even if it's something like with artwork, because that does help with the socio-emotional development, as well as any kind of incentives or food that we choose to bring into the space. And then just kind of, like I said, it really ties it back to, you know, giving back to the community and really igniting that desire to be here and be involved because you recognize the change that can happen. And we'd really like to thank Tiny Tots and all of the stakeholders and potential beneficiaries that we're hoping can see the benefit that can be had here. Thank you.
So thank you. Now I think we go to our final group, group 4. You all set, group 4?
Good evening, everyone. Did you know that Somaliland is the land of poets? And there are so many things that we do not know about Somalian culture and the people. So the project we will present today aims to amplify their voices, particularly focus on young women in Somalia community in Washington. And we are Team 4. Inclusive, diverse, equitable airlines idea. My name is Angela.
My name is Aya. I'm Andrew.
And today we have the pleasure and opportunity to work with Somali Family Safety Task Force. And let me start sharing a story of Fahih Maham.
We also had another slide that was before that.
The founder of the Somali Family Safety Task Force. So first, when she came to the United States, she faced a lot of challenges as an immigrant in the United States, such as culture shock, language barriers, and even learn how to take buses around the area to go to do the grocery shopping. So at that moment, she realized she needed to use what experience to bring back to the community. So in 2005, she founded Somalian Family Safety Task Force. She wanted to serve the Somalian community, but particularly focus on Somalian women, young girls, to empower their American dreams. And what does American dreams mean to them? First, to have equal access to the education, And second, work opportunities. Third, women and men should have equal opportunities in their community. She realized the stories of Somalia should be empowered and be seen.
So we identified the two strongest characteristics of the task force. First, they know their community really well. And this is exemplified by culturally responsive and culturally relevant programming, like the Girls Guide. The Girls Guide is a program that educates and empowers young Somali and other East African girls by providing weekly workshops and trainings focused on the intersectional experience of being Black, Muslim, an immigrant, and a young girl in America. One of their strengths is also their commitment to the community, which has built a very strong mutual trust. For example, even though Girls Guide has not secured funding, the task force continues to make sure that they provide materials for the girls' interest and food every night they gather. However, even though Othello has the largest East African community in Seattle, with Somalis as the largest ethnic group, their voices are not usually heard, which leads to the challenges of the organization. A lack of involvement from large, highly capable, and highly visible organizations. So we propose a social innovation. The Intersectional Voices Somali Stories. It aims to amplify their narratives through two parts. First, storytelling through digital media passes the mic as it centers the voice of stories of Somali girls. It also creates a space for historically marginalized identities as the content is led and produced by the girls.
Intersectional Voices will be a holistic, innovative program to help girls tell them and their families' stories. We will first bring in experts from the UW, from departments such as informatics and communications, to help them create websites and documentaries to help them share their experiences. And we will use the Commons as a center of digital media to hold workshops and store material resources to help them. We aim to facilitate this discussion, but not to influence it. The content will be entirely created by the Somali community and the girls. So we hope that this can be an example of how the UW can leverage strengths in the community and be an ally in Othello. So we aim to do this in three ways. First, we give the Somali community a platform to tell their stories. Second, we empower girls to articulate their experiences by mastering digital media skills. And finally, we amplify the girls' voices through expert advice from the UW. Also, this will not only help the Othello community, but UW by increasing community engagement, both through faculty who would otherwise not be in these spaces and through service learning opportunities for students. If Intersectional Voices is successful, we hope to expand it to other communities in Othello and form long-term partnerships to tell their stories. So, as the female Somali academic Zainab Mohammed Jama said, these voices are fighting to be heard, so let's raise them up with Intersectional Voices. Thank you.
Now we have one amendment. That was our final group, but one amendment. So group 3, there was a slide missing that has been found. So let's.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so this would probably make it a lot more clear for everyone to understand what I was talking about. But just to summarize it, is that we would have the UW student and faculty-led classes where, so that's at the top where UW students would be receiving academic credit for their work, and they would support Tiny Tots. And then the parents, the adolescents meaning the Rainier Valley Leadership Academy students, and the children would be taking these classes. And yeah, so these are some examples of the classes that we would be offering. For parents, it would be primarily life skills classes, and then the adolescents would have a variety of classes that would support their college and career going, and they would also take classes. They would also have the option to take classes including child development and care, which would support Tiny Tots in supervision of the children. And yeah, so all of the stakeholders of the Tiny Tots families and the Rainier Valley Leadership Academy students will be benefiting by these classes that are kind of supported and facilitated by the UW students and faculty. So yeah, thank you.
That was our final presentation. So the first thing I want to do is I want to acknowledge our students. And I just want to say to you, it really is a big deal for many of you, you haven't done public presentations before, and you're undergraduate students, and it really is something special to stand up in front of your peers, no less esteemed judges, and present your work. It takes a lot of courage to do that. It takes a lot of courage to work together as teams like this. And it takes a lot of time and energy and commitment to work with community partners and do the kind of work that you did. So first of all, let's acknowledge the presenters and the students for doing this kind of work. And I must say, it does remind me when I was an undergraduate, and on a Saturday night, let's just say I wasn't doing a PowerPoint presentation. We didn't have PowerPoint back then, so thank you for the work that you've done. Now for our esteemed judges, the work goes to you. So you have 20 minutes to deliberate. We're right on time. I think your deliberation is going to happen upstairs, so as you walk up the stairs, appreciate the lovely commons that we have. And for the students that have done your presentation, now's your chance to relax and have some food and talk to each other, and we'll come back in 20 minutes. So nice work. A lot of money at stake here. I won't tap your shoulder. I'll leave that alone.
Sasha wants you to put it. Okay.
What's up? Thank you. You did a good job.
I'm so sorry.
Really? Sorry. I'm sorry.
No. I didn't know.
But I think you did a good job.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. I'm
I think I'll review them.
Okay.
I'm so sorry because I didn't have any hands.
No. I'm so glad. I just took a recovery. So
it's okay. It's okay. Thank you very much.
No. Of course. So Sasha wants to slide up. Do you know
which one?
A PowerPoint slide. Who wants to slide up?
A slide right now.
Yeah.
Which one?
You think you're doing it, but I'll be right back.
I think this is. appreciate it. You're doing the work.
All of those things are very definitely not trip on something, and I really want to trip on it.
So the judges have deliberated. Are we all back? We ready? The judges have deliberated. They went off to a room. They shut the door. We had to drag them out. So here's what we're going to do. There's going to be a judge representative that's going to come forth and let us know who won the competition. And the spirit of this, of course, you know, and I don't need to say this, but there are no losers in the competition. So somebody's going to be selected who will win the prize in the end. But in the end, the recognition is going to go to all of you for being here. One other thing I want to make sure I mention, because at the end, we also want to do a group photograph with all the students and the judges. So at the very end, before you leave, and before you grab food or anything like that, we're just going to step into the lobby. So be prepared at the very end to do that. So I'm going to turn it over to a judge representative. Sunny.
Hello. So before I announce the winner, I would like to give some feedback to all of the groups, but even before that, I would like to thank you all for coming up with really creative and innovative ideas that I haven't heard in a long time, or if this is my first time hearing of such ideas, because like I said before at the orientation, I'm a community member of this Athelium first and foremost, and it's so great for me to hear of these ideas and to know that there's this commitment and this enthusiasm for the Othello community and the people that live down here. So thank you all for your ideas and your commitment to the event today. And I'll be just going in order of the groups, and the last group that I mention will be the winning group. So there's 100% transparency with me. I just want to let you know. So with the Tiny Tots Miss Helen's table, what we really appreciated was that it was the boldest and most ambitious group, or the most ambitious idea, and something that we kind of wrapped our head around. And a question that we asked you was, how does it, we thought that it was a great idea, like in a couple years from now with the Othello Square project, because I think there is some conflation between the Othello Square project and the Othello Commons project. So that was a question that we had, but we really liked the boldness of the idea because we were thinking of, wow, that would be such a great idea if it could be implemented. With Mercy Housing, we really appreciated the recognition of the community partnerships that are existing and that could be forged, and how much it relied on the strengths and the expertise that already existed in the community and in community members versus relying on the university as the expert or the holder of all knowledge and just coming in and saying, we have all this knowledge, and then we're out because we're the university and we're back up in Northeast Seattle. And so that's something that something that we all really appreciated, but we were missing kind of that, where does the university come into that? And how does the existing Othello UW Commons project exist into that idea versus just being an event space, but thinking in terms of the Othello UW Commons project as a larger idea that bridges the university to Mercy Housing and to the other community organizations in the area. My notes. And then with Tiny Tots, the Challenger group, what we really appreciated was the vast partnerships that could be forged between the university with the other organizations that are in the area, such as the Rainier Valley Leadership Academy and Tiny Tots and other organizations that could come in and put on these UW faculty and student-led classes. And I think one comment that really help us to kind of grasp as Tiny Tots with the Challenger was, it was a clear pipeline in terms of, this is UW faculty and students coming in to do this project. Here's what UW students are doing. They're doing all these great things. This is their benefit. Here's what the faculty are doing. This is their benefit. Here are parents. Here are high school students, and here are children, and this is how they're all benefiting from it. And it was a clear image in terms of, here are the stakeholders, but they're also the beneficiaries. And I think that's something that everyone in the room should think about, is at the end of the day, someone's lives are being impacted, and so they are also the stakeholders, and they're also the beneficiaries. And so that's something that we really appreciated from the Tiny Tots Challenger group. And then the winning group is the Somali Family Task Force, or the Family Safety. And this is in the idea, the Inclusive, Diverse, Equitable Alliance, and the thing that we most appreciated was the achievability of the project. Not only is this idea of the digital storytelling project working within what already exists at the Othello UW Commons with the digital storytelling project that we have, but also creating a new project and new infrastructure for the Somali Family Safety Task Force, in that the UW is coming in to help create this platform and to run these workshops, but also in a way that it uplifts and kind of empowers the Somali community and its community members through the Girls Guide program to tell their story. And something that the judges would like to push this group to ask themselves is, what's next? How do we go beyond storytelling so that we are addressing how the Somali Family Task Force is being recognized by larger organizations? And so with that, congratulations, Somali Family Safety Task Force. And can we have the winning group to come forth? Am I in this picture too? Can I be in this picture too? Can we have our coach as well? Yes. I always want to be in the picture. Okay, one without the joke.
called me out a couple of times, and I learned a lot of things from you guys. Thank you. Woohoo! For the okay. Do you want to say anything? No, no, no.
Award speeches? No. So a special thanks to the judges. Give a final hand to the judges. Thank you. To the community organization and partners, thank you for the partners. And to the graduate coaches. Will the graduate coaches please stand so we can see you and acknowledge you, the graduate coaches? Thank you. To the staff that put all of this together, and to Dean Tuan, please. And congratulations to all of you. So let's try to do this. The lobby is kind of empty, so maybe, photographer, who's our photographer? You want to check, and maybe you can tell us where to go, but if we all go out this door here, let's go do a group photo real quick, and then when you come back, there's food. You can take food home, I understand, and we'll do a final thank you and goodbye.